Been waiting all morning long for a call from James in Virginia. We'll talk to him coming up in a little bit. He had a hard time getting through to talk about his Commanders after the big win against the Bears. 877-3DP Show. Email address dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle at DP Show. We should have called James in Virginia after that comeback win by his Commanders. He's Paul Finebaum, host of the Paul Finebaum Show, voice of the SEC, joining us on the program. All right, let's put this to bed. A&M, big win against LSU. Mike Elko, the head coach at A&M, after the game has some things to say. I don't know if a reporter said, Coach, who were you talking about? But let's play it, then you can tell us who you think Mike Elko is taking a shot at.
We're very honest. We're very open. And this is a real program. It's not fake. It's not a politician running this program, talking fast and BSing everybody. This is a real program. And for all the recruits out there, this is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
Who are the candidates, Paul, that he could be talking about?
Well, first of all, you don't have to be a PhD from the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting to know the answer to this. So I'll eliminate the candidates and name only one. He is referring to one Jimbo Fisher, one of the biggest BSers in the history of college football, and not a very good politician at that, and a man who walked away a year ago next week with, I'm thinking, $77 million not to coach this team that Mike Elko is coaching exquisitely. So didn't mean to give you such a long answer to an easy question.
Yeah, we didn't know if he's taking a shot at Brian Kelly because he coached with Brian for a year at Notre Dame. I didn't know if he was taking a shot at Deion Sanders. So thank you for clearing that up. All right, the number of teams that are playoff worthy, the number of teams that are in contention to win it all. How big a disparity do you have with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something like 29 schools right now competing for 12 berths. It gets a little complex because of the naturally convoluted system that the CFP has. We're not identifying the 12 best. We're figuring out conference champions. But I think we're about to get into the point of the schedule where we're getting playoff eliminators. Like Saturday, Missouri went away. They only have 2 losses, but they're not coming back. I mean, they've lost, I think, 75-10 in their 2 biggest games this year. So, and they have their biggest win is Boston College. So the next big one comes in 12 days with the aforementioned Brian Kelly. You have Alabama and LSU. The loser is done. The winner stays alive and very likely will get in. So we're going to see a series of games like this. I mean, everything is not equal, but just within the Big Ten, the SEC, there are more. I mean, nobody had Indiana. Nobody looked at Pittsburgh from the ACC, and quite frankly, nobody had Texas A&M in the SEC.
I know when we went to the 12-team playoff, I had a lot of pushback, and I was probably in the minority. I said this makes the regular season more relevant. More teams have hope. All you want to do is get into the big dance in March Madness. That's it. You just want to be able to say we're in, we got past the velvet ropes and we got in. And I think having games that mean something in November is something that we have missed here. Where do you stand with where we are with 12, and how long does it take to get to 24?
It will keep growing. Just let me refer you to the NCAA basketball tournament. It was 32, and now now they're trying to get 96. Yeah. It makes too much sense. We used to spend November figuring out bad conference divisional matchups, which in the Big Ten and the SEC were always one-sided because there was one dominant. Now it is fascinating. And I think we're in for a really extraordinary month. And I'm not sitting here as a hype machine for SEC on ABC. It's doing quite well, by the way. But every conference is going to have these games. And, especially when there is literally a playoff berth on the line. It's an old saying, Dan, but I mean, college football is now entering that NFL phase where even the conference championship games won't determine a playoff bid, but they will determine who has a bye and maybe home field advantage. That matters, as you well know.
All right. I know it's been a few weeks. It's hard to keep track of where you stand on Deion Sanders.
I can't remember.
It's not the toughest schedule, but you don't get style points. You just win. And with Travis being out for a while or being banged up, and Shador Sanders is playing well, and maybe the Heisman winner. But how good is Colorado?
They're a lot better than the last time I was here, Dan, when we were both lamenting. Can they just win four games? It has been remarkable to watch, and maybe we shouldn't have been surprised when you have two of the three or four best players in the country. But they're not beating what I would call high quality teams, but they are winning. And they'll get a couple of opportunities. I mean, I think that what they need, they're in a bowl game, which is great, but now, they've got a very narrow path to the Big 12 championship. I wouldn't put my stamp on it right now, but the fact that it's almost November and they're still a relevant conversation piece as opposed to what they were last year, a freak show, I think is very significant. And I know one of my colleagues and one of your former colleagues has been clapping for Deion to be National Coach of the Year. I think Mike Elko might be a slightly better choice right now, or a number of other coaches like Kurt Signetti at Indiana. But I do think that Deion has quieted everyone, including me. I've been in traction for 3 weeks trying to pat myself on the back or flip flop from all the different takes. But Dan, that's sports, okay? Why apologize? Just come up with a new take.
He's Paul Finebaum, host of the Paul Finebaum Show. Well, that leads me into, where do you stand with Lincoln Riley and USC? It's been a while since we talked about that situation.
Yeah, very little has changed there. He's still a fraud as an elite major college coach. He's had one or two decent wins, including the LSU game, but there's just been too many drop games at nowhere sites in the Big Ten for me to believe in him. I think it won't be this year because there's too much invested in him. But I think anyone with 2100 vision or below can see that he's not going to last very long as the SC head coach.
We're seeing something that's now becoming, there's enough of a sample size of teams, crossing a couple of time zones here, especially going out to the West Coast, and the success rate or lack thereof. This is something that is going to be there for the Big Ten. If you're how do you think coaches can better prepare for the traveling part of this in this conference?
Well, I'm sure they'll be talking to all the experts in the offseason about biorhythms, Dan. But ultimately, they just have to get out there a day early and become acclimated. It's not unusual. We see it in the NFL we see it in every sport. I think it's doable. Although we haven't seen many of them done. They have to do a better job with scheduling too. I don't know if you stay out there for 2 weeks, which seems like it might make sense. But then again, the quote unquote student athletes would be missing valuable class time, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would be. Yes, they would be. I can't remember a season where I didn't think we had a front runner for the Heisman, and I didn't think we had a front runner for being the best team in the country. Can you, and it might be a good thing, Paul, but can you remember when we had sort of I'm not quite sure who's who and what's what?
No, as far as the Heisman, we usually declare that in July and then readjust. But I think Travis Hunter is the X factor there. If he's healthy and he's playing in semi-significant games, I think he's going to be the last man standing. All these other guys are great, but he's the biggest name. And as far as the best team, no, there really isn't one. We've had 4 number ones already, I believe. I'm moving back toward Georgia, even though I got off their bandwagon quickly, like every other bandwagon I've gotten off of this year. But I think I'm back on there now. Just, by the way, when you get off a bandwagon, never give up your buy your seat. Don't give it away, because there's always time to get back on. I've learned that working at ESPN, Dan.
What's the fan base that has a real problem with you more than any other one?
It was Michigan last year under Harbaugh, because that story was for 3 years, and they were fairly belligerent. It comes and goes. Within the SEC, let's see, there's 16 Give me a minute on that. I'll come up with a long list. But I have the one I've been around the longest is Alabama, and they can be very difficult. But the one thing I'll say about Alabama, I was there over the weekend in Tuscaloosa. That fan base was on the verge of revolt with Kalen DeBoer, but it just took a 34 to nothing win over a hapless Missouri team with no quarterback for them to now be back invested in winning it all. That's how quickly it changes.
Yeah, I don't, cover the sport the way you do, obviously, but like I have Tennessee fans mad because I, reported that they were paying recruits in fast food bags years ago. And I wasn't doing it. I just broke the news that a coach who was involved in it told me that that's how they were paying recruits. Come on to the campus. Here's money in a bag, a McDonald's bag, or a whatever, a Wendy's.
I was in Knoxville a week ago, Dan, and you're right. They're still mad at you. But the best way to get a college football fan mad at you is not to pick their team, which is one reason when I used to work in Birmingham, the year after Saban got there, I picked Alabama literally from 2008 until 2 years ago in Knoxville when Tennessee beat them. I mean that's a lifetime. I never went against them, and people say, well, that's crazy. You're being a homer. You know what? I didn't miss very many times. I think I missed about 8 times in 17 years.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Stay on those or stay off those bandwagons, whatever it is. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Dan.
Paul Finebaum, host of the Paul Finebaum Show, the voice of the SEC, and you'll see him SEC Nation. He's a busy guy Saturday mornings. And a couple more phone calls in here.